panelist is Gayle Brown. She is an executive leadership coach, a trainer, and a speaker. She's also the CEO of Brown Impact.
I think that this is a great partnership. I worked with the faith community and the domestic violence agencies for about 12 years. And it's a great partnership because these two entities have shared values. And that's what they can leverage. They can leverage their unique strengths and their shared values. They both have a value for safety and shelter for their congregants and the people they're serving. And they have a value for peace and justice. They have a value for healing. Both the faith community and the social justice field, they share these values. And we can leverage that shared value to work together collaboratively to reach hurting people that may be in their congregations, and people who may never, ever cross the threshold of a mainstream sexual assault agency. So because churches hold the relationship, they hold deep relationships with these families, this is a great avenue for BV and sexual assault centers because the churches already have a relationship. So what the field can offer churches is the knowledge of how to work with these complex issues, the holding their hands through that issue. And so I think they need to know, the field needs to know that they're needed, that churches are not particularly well staffed in this particular arena, and they could use the help. And the churches need to know that the field is there and willing to help and willing to lend resources, willing to educate. One of the things I thought was interesting in the meeting, and in my own dealing with church, because I'm a faith leader in my church as well, is that people often counsel with the pastor or counsel with the lay clergy on a particular issue of this importance. And I think churches need to come to terms with the fact that these are complex issues and they require counseling with people who have been credentialed in those areas, right? So spiritual counseling is great, but may not go far enough, and they should be ready to refer. So I see it as a great partnership, benefits on both sides, a benefit for the community if they get together and learn how to work together. And I think it's cool. I think Calcasa is right in the right place, and a great facilitator making that happen.
I'm Sharon Ellis, and I share my opinion with Gayle as well. I think often the faith-based organizations try to be the end-all and do-all, and we both can have that symbiotic relationship.
I'll just piggyback on what has already been said. One thing I do know, having worked both in the field, I was in the field in direct services, and both in the faith organizations. I've worked in both those systems, and I know that there is a lot of distrust for religious institutions in the field. And I do know a lot of harm has been done in the name of the Lord. All right? So I think we have to come to the table acknowledging that a lot of harm has been done. Yes, we acknowledge that. What can we do? What shared values can we leverage those shared values that we have to move forward? And I think everybody at the table has to be kind of open-minded and not bring their baggage with them about faith-based institutes. And if you can't do that, then you're probably not the right person to be at the table, right? So you kind of have to come open-minded and open-hearted and ready to seek solutions and be in a position to open yourself up to trust, right? And the faith organizations, the people who come to the table from the faith organizations are coming to seek solutions, right? And so that should give them a little bit of credit, right? I mean, so that's a first step, right? In acknowledging that. So I just want to acknowledge that conversation about the harm that's not done in the name of the Lord, in the name of religion. There's been a lot of harm done. So we have to acknowledge that when we come to the table so that we can move beyond that. But they also are the recipients of funds, and that's important, right? Funding to get that, help get that word out there. And so it's important that they see this as an issue to be reckoned with and to be dealt with, and that it's on the agenda, right? That it makes the agenda. For so long, I think we talked about, as the conference started, that spirit has been left out of the movement, right? Unless we're dealing with our clients, and we want to treat them as a whole person. But other than that, we don't involve the spirit in this work. And so I think this is a great shifting to even acknowledge that, that's such an important part of who we are as people. We can't leave spirit out of this equation. It's maybe the missing piece. Thank you. If you have a night of healing, those stories are going to come out. And so that is one way you can begin to talk about it at churches without talking about it. And just call it a night of healing and see what comes up. But anyway, the other thing, churches can take small steps in acknowledging Sexual Assault Awareness Month in April, right? Wearing a green ribbon to acknowledge Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It begins the conversation. It begins to say, hey, we know about this. It's a silent show of support for those who are suffering in silence, right? And so it's a great way for the church to lead. Also, having a Sexual Assault Awareness Month at church, where in the month of April, you invite in Adrian to speak about this issue and connect the church as a body to the greater cause, right? So those are little ways to introduce a tough subject at church and gradually begin to connect them to this, not just a church problem, but a community problem and a state problem and a national problem, right? And because the church is just a microcosm of what's going on in the community. And whatever's going on in the community is going on in the church. And so getting them to make that connection takes some of the shame away. It takes some of the, this is not just something shameful going on at church. This is a national problem, and we're going to do something about it, right? And so that's a great way to get them to buy. I remember when we first started talking about domestic violence, and this was in 2002, so it was 15 years ago when nobody talked about it. It was, people wouldn't look at me. They stopped talking to me because they were afraid that if they talked to me, you might think they had domestic violence at their home. Right? So, and just gradually beginning to have those conversations and gradually turn that church turned around over the course of about 5 years later. They weren't just wearing purple ribbons. The entire congregation was coming with purple on in October. The usher board came to church in purple. They changed their uniform to purple in October. All right? So, it was gradual. It doesn't happen all at once. But it's just beginning to have those conversations and to keep it going and to connect it to something larger than this shame that is just you and your daughter or you and me. It's a bigger issue. I don't even know what question I answered. What you guys want to answer? Making sure the church values safety over vows, over forgiveness, that is first, that preserving human life is first, preserving having safe spaces is a priority, because what can happen is the relationship gets in the way. Deacon Felder has been on the deacon board forever and ever and ever, and he has such a great rapport at the church that somehow now when it happens in his family, you know, we want to break protocol, and we don't want to follow the procedure that we've outlined and we know exists. And so we have to create an environment where that sanctity of human life and safety has more of a priority than relationships, right? And that we have a protocol in place and we're following it. And that we've got to do these things to protect our folks. That's what I say. Thanks.
Well, we would like to
Don't be other way any longer, right? Because communities are holding them accountable. So I think it's true that most clergy now are getting trained in this area. But I think that for the field, I think we have to all realize as people that churches are made up of imperfect people, right? Even our leaders, you know, our leaders are imperfect people. There are pastors that are abusers, right? There are pastors that abuse their wife. We know this. So I'm not trying to say that our leaders are perfect in any way, but it's no longer a world where it has to be tolerated, right? And there are huge liability and dollars to be paid when it's violated, and that's not enough. You know, who wants their child violated? Raise your hand. And you exchange for $1 million. Nobody wants that. It's going to change their lives forever and ever. Amen. So we want to stop it, right? We want to make sure that there are policies in place and there are protocols in place to protect, because this world is made up of imperfect people. Churches are made up of imperfect people. Churches are made up of sick people seeking healing. And that's just the reality. It's not a reality, you know, when I was a young single person, I looked around my church and I thought, I'm supposed to find a husband in here? Right. These are sick people seeking healing, right? But so was I, right? So throw the first stone, you know. And I'm not belittling it anyway, but this is just the reality of the world and the human condition that we face. That none of us is perfect, and we all have to aspire to do the best we can every day and hold those accountable who fail and do harm. But at church in particular, I'm trusting those folks not to do harm. And when they do harm, it's our jobs as congregants, as members, as community members, to hold them accountable and say, no, not in this day and not in this time. So that's all we can do, I think.